Hello and welcome back to the channel. In the previous video, we saw how to take input in Java. In this video, we're going to be looking at conditional statements. When we want to make decisions in our code, we're going to use conditional statements. As in other programming languages, we can have conditional statements in Java. We're going to follow the same format. We're going to have the keyword if, and in parentheses, we're going to have a condition. And if that condition is true, then the statements in that block get executed, else they're going to get skipped. So to demonstrate this, we're going to be building a program that compares two values entered by the user. So we're going to create a new class, and we're going to call it comparison. We're going to make sure that we check the public static void main, and we're going to click on finish. Before we build the comparison application, we're going to look at the syntax to using conditional statements in Java. So let's say we have a number called num, and we're going to set it equal to 10. And the syntax we have to follow is if, and in parentheses, we're going to have a condition. For example, we can say if num is greater than 5, then we're going to have a block of code that is going to execute if this condition is true. So here we can print out the number is greater than 5. And now if we save our file and run our code, we get the number is greater than 5. Now if we change num to a number that is not greater than 5, let's say 1, and if we save our file and run our code, nothing gets displayed. That is because the if statement block gets skipped. Another thing we can do here is add an else block. So we're going to have else, and let's print out something else. We're going to print out the number is not greater than 5. Now if we save our file and if we run our code, we get the statement the number is not greater than 5. That means it's going to check the condition inside the if statement, and if that is not true, it's going to go to the else block. One more thing we can do is check multiple conditions. To do that, we're going to be using else if. So here we can have else if, and we can provide a second condition. Let's say num less than 5. Then we're going to print out the same thing. The number is not greater than 5. Now both conditions are going to be checked, and we can also have an else statement. And in here, we're going to print out the number is equal to 5. So what's going to happen here is first the if condition gets checked. It's going to check if number is greater than 5. If that is not true, it's going to go to the second condition. It's going to check if number is less than 5. And finally, if both conditions are not true, whatever is inside the else statement gets executed. So if we save our file and run our code, we get the number is not greater than 5. Now if we change num to 5, save our file and run our code, we get the number is equal to 5. So this is how you use conditional statements in Java. Now we can go back to our comparison application. Since we're going to be taking user input, we need to import the scanner class. To do that, we're going to have import java.util.scanner. And in order to use the methods inside the scanner class, we're going to create an object of type scanner. We're going to give it a name. We're going to call it input, and we're going to set it equal to new scanner. Next, we're going to prepare variables that are going to store the user's input. We're going to be taking two numbers, so we're going to have int number 1 and int number 2. The next step is going to be prompting the user to enter a number. To do that, we're going to use system.out.print, and we're going to tell them to enter the first number. Then we're going to be using the input object, and we're going to be accessing the next int method, and we're going to be storing whatever the user inputs inside the number one variable. Next, we're going to do the same for the second number. So we're going to have system.out.print, and we're going to prompt the user to enter the second number. And again, we're going to use input.nextInt, and we're going to store that value inside the number 2 variable. Next, we're going to handle the different comparisons. So we're going to have if. The first comparison we're going to check is if number 1 is equal to number 2. To check for equality, we're going to be using 2 equal signs. And if this is true, we're going to system.out.printf. So printf is going to be printing out based on a format. The format is going to be %d is equal to %d. And inside the placeholders for %d, we're going to substitute number 1 and number 2. So this is the first condition. We're going to have another if statement, and this is going to check if number 1 is not equal to number 2. So to check for non-equality, we're going to be using the exclamation mark followed by an equal sign. And if this is the case, we're going to copy the previous statement, and we're going to paste it here, and we're going to change the equality to not equal. Next, we're going to check if number 1 is less than number 2. If that is the case, we're going to print out the same statement, and we're going to change the operation to less than. Next, we're going to check if number 1 is greater than number 2. And again, we're going to print out the same statement and change the operation. Next, we're going to check if number 1 is greater than or equal to number 2. If that is the case, we're going to print the statement out and change the operation. And finally, we're going to check if number 1 is less than or equal to number 2. And we're going to print out the statement and change the operation. Now here, there is a reason that we did not use else if statements. That is because when we're using else if, only one of the blocks are going to execute. But in our case, we want more than one block to execute. For example, if we had 2 and 4, we would want the inequality to execute. We also want the less than to execute. And finally, we also want the less than or equal to execute. So if we want to execute more than one block, we have to use separate if statements. Now we can save our file and run the code. For the first number, we're going to put in 2. For the second number, we're going to put in 4. Now here, as you can see, the output is not readable. That is because we didn't use the new line character. So in each printf statement, we're going to add a new line to the end. Once we've added all the new lines, we can save our file and run the program again. For the first number, we're going to put in 2. For the second number, we're going to put in 4. And as you can see, we get 2 is not equal to 4. We get 2 is less than 4. And finally, we get 2 is less than or equal to 4. So this is the basics of conditional statements in Java. In the next video, we're going to be looking at classes and objects in more depth. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more programming content.